Hi there, wherever you are and whatever time zone you're in. Hope you're doing really, really well. We are going to talk about some difficulties Ellen is having. And first of all, to you, Ellen, I know that you had a bad night, a little bit unexpectedly, but you know what? Don't lose hope, not at all. Like, this is very, very early. And I want to say that when I first saw an email from you 3 days ago, you know, I felt like this is a person who is in a place where they're ready for change, somebody that's motivated, but also has like the insights necessary and is starting to question some beliefs about their sleep. And when you read these things, you're like, yeah, this person is going to do well. So I just first of all want to say, don't lose hope. Like I strongly believe you're going to do really well. And I'm sorry this took so long. It's such a long time to get to answer you here, but it was as you know fairly long emails, and I wanted to go over as much of it as I could. So before we get into it, nothing here is medical advice to you, Ellen, or anybody else out there, but just general thoughts and advice that I hope will be helpful. Of course, it's up to you, Ellen, anybody else out there as well, if you want to apply anything I talk about here. But just let's get started here, and it's going to be a pretty long conversation here. But let's get started, and I hope I can deliver a lot of helpful insights to you, Ellen. Okay, so 3 days ago, I get this email. Hi, Daniel. Although I've had severe insomnia for 9 months, just stumbled upon your YouTube channel yesterday, and I've already listened to a dozen talks. You're so insightful and performing such a valuable service to those of us that are truly suffering. Thanks so much for that, Ellen. I really, really, really appreciate it. May I prevail upon you for some help? My internist has admitted he just doesn't know how to help me other than suggesting CBTI, mostly Sleepio, which, by the way, is kind of an online CBTI program, and sedating antidepressants. I saw a local sleep doctor who immediately suggested a sleep study, saying I probably have sleep apnea or restless legs, even though my issues are mostly sleep onset, and when I do get sleep, it is actually quite restorative. I don't have typical characteristics of sleep apnea. I snore very light, occasionally, seldom fatigued during the day. I'm thin. I know if I had restless legs, and my husband would tell me, and my cat wouldn't cuddle on my legs during the night. So I didn't pursue the sleep study. And I'm going to just make a quick comment here. And I think I'm going to keep doing comments here as we go along. I think that will be most helpful. So as I talked on the channel about before, the way I see it is if you have somebody that has like typical insomnia type issues, like, hard time falling asleep, or wakes up and then has a hard time falling back asleep, it takes a long time, and then doesn't have a sleep apnea type symptoms, I feel it's very, very rarely needed a sleep study. The times when you think about maybe doing a sleep study is more if somebody does snore pretty loudly and maybe wakes up often but falls back asleep quickly, meaning they're sleepy, they wake up, fall asleep, wake up, fall asleep. So the people with sleep apnea often wake up 6, 7, 8 times per night, but they fall back asleep quickly. That's usually the difference. So let's go on. I'm 65 years old, female, no health issues. As a matter of fact, I have always been very healthy. Eat whole food, plant-based diet, work out at the gym, and home 90 to 180 minutes a day, doing water aerobics, Tai Chi, yoga, weights, walking. I'm retired. Now, here's another comment, that this is also very typical. And, I see a lot of patients as well as, people I interact with here on the channel that are very health conscious. A lot of people that describe themselves as health freaks even. And the paradox here is that what usually is very, very good when it comes to sleep is often the opposite, meaning when it comes to exercise, there's really no upper limit to how much is not good for you. Like, you can exercise for hours. That's just, that if you like it, that's great. And you can achieve goals. You can lose weight by exercise, and you can do something very deliberate to achieve a goal, etc. And then a lot of people hear that, just like exercising is good, sleeping also good, and kind of apply the same strategy, meaning like I need to get more sleep, I'm going to work on my sleep. Well, then things are very different. The more you try to sleep, the more elusive it becomes. And then you try harder, then it becomes even more elusive. So oftentimes people that are like very health conscious and a little bit type A personality, like, gets all their ducks lined up in a row like that, oftentimes develop insomnia because of this thing. So I want to just comment on that. That is very, very common. Okay, let's read on here. Even as a kid, I wasn't a great sleeper in that I wasn't comatose to the world, woke up easily, woke up early, like at 7, while my friends didn't get up for a few hours later, especially getting older, some nocturia. But my sleep was adequate for me. I laugh when people moan and groan about adjusting to daylight savings time in the spring. What's the 1 hour less of sleep one night? 7 versus 8? I always observed good sleep hygiene. A typical night was going to be 10:30 or 11 and waking up 5:36. 6 to 7 hours of sleep was perfect. I woke up fully alert and ready to start the day. When I worked, I didn't really use an alarm, but I never once sorry, I'm going to take that sentence again. When I worked, I didn't really need to use an alarm, but I never once used a snooze alarm. Always eager to get out of bed and start my day. I've never overslept in my life or pulled an all-nighter during college. So a few comments on this section. The fact that you weren't a great sleeper as a child, woke up early, that indicates to me that you on the spectrum of sleep need, like some people need a lot of sleep and some people need less. I think you're a little bit on the shorter end of that. And that is a little bit of a, people that develop insomnia typically are more on that end. People that need a lot of sleep are less likely to develop insomnia, but just a little comment on that. So you have a little bit of a predisposing factor there, a little bit of a risk factor there. Now let's go on. Before the insomnia started in July, I did notice that I could no longer fall asleep for a 30 to 60 minute nap in the afternoon as I long had done. But this is okay, I didn't really need it. I also noticed that I would have a bad night. Back then, bad was about 5 hours of sleep, followed by a better one of 7. It's almost like my body didn't want/need 7 hours of sleep night after night. I also saw that my window of opportunity to fall asleep was getting very slim. If I didn't turn on the light immediately when getting sleepy, I could lose the sleepiness for the next hour. Let's stay on this paragraph for just a second. I don't know at what point you retired, Ellen, but I want to say that what I see a lot, mainly in clinic, I would say, is that some people have no problem sleeping until they retire, and then when there's no kind of obligation to get up in the morning and stay awake during the day, a lot of people develop insomnia because they kind of want to sleep in and take it easy. They may want to take a nap and etc. And then when they can't do that, they become frustrated and as many people do, try to get a bit earlier, make sure they get enough sleep, and then develop insomnia in that way. So that was just one comment. And the other one, you said, it's almost like my body didn't want/need 7 hours of sleep night after night. You may be onto something there. Like most of us need a typical, as I've said many times on the channel here, most people think they sleep about 7 hours, but when you objectively test healthy sleepers, they sleep about 6 hours. So for a lot of us, around 6.2, 6.3, something like that is actually pretty average. And then it's very interesting that you mentioned this window of opportunity to fall asleep, which I hear a lot. I hear that a lot. Like people say, if I don't fall asleep before this time, it's going to take me hours to fall asleep. And I believe, I've pondered this a lot, and I believe that is to do with expectation and pressure, meaning if you go to bed, fairly early and you don't, it's not that late yet, you know that you have the entire night ahead of you, you have less of a pressure to fall asleep than later. So sometimes I feel people go to bed fairly early, feeling like it's okay if I don't fall asleep now because I have the whole night, are able to fall asleep within this window. But if they don't fall asleep, then pressure builds, and it's like, oh no, I missed my window. Now it's going to take a lot of time. What if I don't get sleepy again? What if I don't fall asleep? And those things kind of spiral out of control. So I think that explains why that window is described by so many people. All right, let's go on. This past July, my husband had 2 bouts of atrial fibrillation in the same week, this necessity being in the ER all night. It was the first time I ever stayed up all night. Also, the week an abdominal mass was found, turned out to be benign, thank God. He has a neurofibromatosis, and it was just a neurofibroma. Within 6 weeks, he was stable and all was well with his health, but I was experiencing numerous totally sleepless nights or not falling asleep until 3, still waking up at 6 or 7. So taking a little break here. What you're describing so far, Ellen, is kind of classic 3P model, So just to go over that very quickly, there's something called the 3P model, which explains why people get insomnia. This is really why most people get insomnia. It's number one, the first piece, like predisposition. Some people, like yourself, that are a little bit of a short sleeper, maybe have a tendency to be like very into health or kind of very a little bit of like control in a way, like to have a hard time giving up control, and those things are predisposing factors. So I think you have some of those predisposing factors, and then there is what's called a precipitating event. And now we have that. Like your sleep wasn't great, but what happened to your husband, that is the precipitating event. And the important thing here is that so far everything is actually normal. A lot of people have a predisposition towards developing insomnia, but they don't develop it because there's no precipitating factor. And also for all of us, when there's a period of stress, we should sleep less. It's a normal response to stress. If your husband was really sick and you slept like a baby, you'd be like, that's weird. So far everything is actually normal, but it is what happens next that becomes like what's called the perpetuating factors, and that's what's really important, because you can't do anything about who you are. You can't do anything about like your genetic makeup and your sleep need. You can't do anything about what happens to you in your life. So you can't do anything about the predisposing or the perpetuating factors. But sorry, I said that wrong. You can't do anything about your predisposing factors and the precipitating event, but you can do something about the perpetuating factors. So this is actually, from now on, is when things get really important. Let's keep reading. When this first started, I was totally freaked out by it and felt awful mentally and physically. I was given temazepam, which I just took once, didn't think it worked very well, felt hungover the next day, and don't want to take something so addictive. Tried gabapentin, which doesn't make me sleepy, but may help some with hot flashes and with increasing deep wave sleep. Tried mirtazapine and doxepine. As one of your videos noted, it's not like this stuff puts you to sleep much earlier than you would have fallen asleep without it. I've looked at research online, and it's laughable how little it really reduces sleep latency and does very little to increase total sleep time. So I researched and experimented with every supplement I could find. Melatonin, 300 micrograms to 11 milligrams, anywhere from 3 hours to 30 minutes before I wanted to go to sleep. Tryptophan, valerian, theanine, magnesium, hops, GABA, glycine, phosphatidylserine, lemon balm. You guessed it, nothing worked. Some of that stuff made me feel groggy at night and the next morning, but not sleepy. Let's stop here for a second. This is exactly what I'm talking about. These are the perpetuating factors. So now, so you had the health scare of your husband that precipitated insomnia, that induced insomnia, and now the attempt at solving the insomnia, the concern about the insomnia, the worry about not sleeping is the problem. This has now become the problem. You trying to find the right medication, the right supplement, that in addition to you being worried about your sleep, is now what's actually driving the insomnia. This is actually now feeding the insomnia. If early on in the stage, if somebody's kind of just in the early stage of having insomnia, you can just tell them like, hey, listen, just stop worrying, abandon all this and you'll do well, and they can do well. When you've gotten kind of further into insomnia, it's not that easy. Unfortunately, I can see there's a lot of sleep effort. You've tried so many things to sleep better that it's gonna take a while to kind of reverse all this, but definitely not hopeless at all. I truly believe you can sleep better in the next weeks to month. And secondly, always remember, I think you'll recognize this from what I'm gathering. Seems like you're into meditation, yoga, etc. Never forget self-love, self-compassion. You did all this because you wanted to sleep better, which is completely natural, and millions of people do this. So always remember that. Don't be hard on yourself. Okay, let's go on. Years ago when I worked, I took Benadryl every night for sleep. When the studies came out noting a correlation with dementia, I stopped and was pleased to see that I could sleep without it. But now, since I can't sleep, I was taking 1 or 2 every night, figuring if my choice was dementia from lack of sleep or dementia from the antihistamines, I might as well get some sleep if the outcome was going to be the same. But not even Benadryl works every night. Built up a tolerance for it. Yeah, a lot of insight here. What I want to comment on is that, when you took Benadryl every night in the past, you already had a tolerance at that time. So when you stopped, it was actually not doing anything. It was mainly placebo effect that made it help at that time. And then when it comes to dementia, I want to say that to be honest with you, I don't think there's any evidence, like solid evidence, causality between Benadryl or insomnia and dementia. I don't think we can say that neither of them is causing dementia, just to take some fear out there. Now, I did see, we continue reading here. I did CBTI half-heartedly since one of my pleasures was reading in bed at night, regular books, never phone or iPad. On some nights, meds worked well enough or sleep overtook me so that I got to bed by midnight. But then I would get a lot of anxiety when my head hit the pillow. I read Guy Meadows' book and tried ACT. I no longer have an anxiety going to bed, but still can't fall asleep, mainly because I don't experience sleepiness. Just a couple of things here. Yes, CBTI, it works, but you have to really commit to it. And you say I never use the phone or iPad in bed at night. And people have different opinions on this. My personal opinion is whatever you use at night before you go to bed or when you wake up from sleep, the most important thing is that it distracts you from your thinking about sleeping. So if you, for example, get out of bed at night and you're staying in this dim lit area and you're trying to really keep calm, that may not be good, because that you may fall asleep, and also you may be frustrated. You may feel like, why am I here? It's dark, it's night, and I just want to sleep. And that sleep preoccupation feeds the insomnia. So my personal opinion is that when you wake up at night or before you go to bed, you have to do something that keeps you from thinking about sleep. If that involves using your phone or iPad, I think that's much better than you doing something that's kind of less stimulating, but that does not allow you to not think about sleep. Okay, let's go on reading. So this week I decided I'm ready to commit to CBTI. No more reading in bed. Set sleep window for 12:30 a.m. to 6 a.m. Not a hardship, since I never get sleepy before 1 a.m. Earlier this week, I didn't get sleepy until 3 a.m. and still woke up at 5 a.m. and couldn't fall back to sleep. After discovering you, I even decided to stop the pills and supplements. On Tuesday, I only got the 2 hours of sleep, so I suspected Wednesday would be better. Got 5 hours of sleep, taking supplements and mirtazapine. 5 hours would be sufficient, but I've had 8 recent days of 3 to 4 hours of sleep, so I didn't feel great yesterday, and for the first time ever missed one of my gym classes. I'm a gym rat. This is huge for me. Last night, I was optimistic about sleep after finding you and didn't take any pills. I never got sleepy. I finally tried at 2 a.m. since I was yawning a bit, although not really drowsy. It didn't work. I've been up all night. You have noted that 18 hours of wakefulness may be needed for an insomniac to then experience sleepiness, but my cycle seems to be 21 to 40 hours. I've often gone 40 hours without sleeping. Occasionally, I get 1 minute micro sleep sitting at the computer in the late afternoon. I watch 90 minutes of TV at night from 8 to 9:30 and get about a 2 minute micro sleep around 9. It's hard to believe that the 2 minutes could throw the cycle off that much. I can ask my husband to wake me up if he sees I've fallen asleep, but he's unlikely to notice for the couple of minutes. Right now, I feel fine. I can't really tell. I haven't slept for going on 24 hours, and I may be able to function today, going to the gym and running some errands. I lead a simple life, but I have been experiencing some tension headaches, which I never used to get, and some brain fog. Yep, I get that my brain won't be as sharp as 65 as it once was, but with my diet and exercise, I was doing quite well until this. Okay, so commenting on this section here, I think the first thing I want to say is I think the microsleep may be a little bit of a bigger problem than you perceive it as. Meaning if somebody is kind of aware of dozing off a little bit, even if it feels like just for 2 minutes, it's often more than that. And you may say then, no, I know it's less. Well, then I would say how do you know? that it is not more than that, because the whole thing is like you don't know that you're asleep. So I think this stretch here, 8 to 9:30 p.m., is something that we could work on, and we're going to get to that in a little bit later. Now, you say my cycle seems to be 21 to 40 hours, meaning it can take like 40 hours until I feel sleepy. I've often gone 40 hours without sleeping. I think that's highly unlikely, meaning like in your, in the past, it seems like you slept maybe around 6 hours or so on average. Sleep need doesn't really change. So I don't think that your cycle has changed. I don't think you've changed. I don't think anything has changed, except that you're so you're preoccupied with sleep. You're worried about sleep. You're thinking a lot about sleep, and that can cause paradoxical insomnia, whereby it's like microsleep, like we sleep but we're not aware of sleeping. So that's the problem with it, and other things as well, including tension headaches and other things. Like a lot of people with insomnia describe like kind of weird twitches and kind of aches, tensions, and things like that. And those, I believe, are not so much because of like sleep deprivation, but they're rather a symptom of hyperarousal and hypervigilance, that you're so aware of everything that's going on. Like you never fall asleep. You're always hypervigilant, and you kind of self-monitor a lot. Like you feel every little twitch and ache and things like that becomes amplified when you're in this like hyper-aroused state. Okay, let's go on. I watched your video about the neurotransmitters. I get what you're saying, but I think I read that one study showed 30% less GABA in insomniacs. And isn't it possible I'm just not making enough adenosine quickly enough? I do recognize the behavioral component, but even being calm about my sleep, restricting, compressing it, and doing stimulus control, and having a positive attitude just don't seem to get sleepy. When I used to read, I would recognize sleepiness by my book dropping and losing place. Never happens anymore. Can you please help? This was the first email from Ellen, and when I read this the first time, I thought it was really interesting, meaning there was a lot of insights, including like how Benadryl didn't really work, and how you, Ellen, like try to like decrease not taking medications and melatonin after listening to some of my videos, but then it's at the end you're still thinking that there's something kind of wrong with you with your neurotransmitters, and so but overall I was very encouraged, because I think you were questioning that, and just to comment on that, no, I don't believe that the root cause for insomnia for anyone is that they're not making not enough adenosine, or they don't have enough serotonin, or the tryptophan is messed up, or things like that. Although so many people have those thoughts. No, that's not the root cause. It is the sleep preoccupation. It's the worry about sleep, thinking about sleep, that is the real root cause. Let's go on here. So I wrote a quick little email to Ellen 3 days ago, and she responded that it was fine for me to do this response. And let's go on. Let's read this too. I think there's a lot of things that are helpful here as well. As of right now, I've been awake for 29 hours. The funny thing is I actually feel okay. In fact, I feel better than I have on days where I got 7 hours of sleep. I think the melatonin, sedating supplements, Benadryl, and sedating antidepressants did not work in the 30 minutes they're supposed to do, and I had more of an effect the next day, make me groggy and sluggish. Just got done with 45 minutes cardio. This is a big insight, that the amount of sleep we get may not correlate exactly with how we feel during the day. And I think the way to harness this insight the best is not to worry about not to worry so much about a bad night, knowing that even if I don't sleep that much, I'm going to feel okay. And often when you are not worried about not sleeping well, you actually do just that. You actually do sleep just well. And you've been awake for 29 hours. Again, like if you had been awake truly, completely, 100% awake for 29 hours, I don't see how you wouldn't be sleepy, And I'm not saying this to kind of question you, but in fact, I want you to question this a little bit, has there been any microsleep? Like, did you go to bed? Like, what does your husband say? And and maybe if you have a Fitbit or some tracker, like, what does that say? Like, that's kind of just my little comment on that. Now, I did have Less than 1 minute of microsleep at 7 a.m. Ironically, watching the YouTube with you and Martin and Michael. No reflection on you three. I will resist any urge to take a nap, which I usually don't have anymore, even after a sleepless night. I watched your video about coffee. I could do that. In fact, the latest thing is a coffee nap where you drink coffee and then take a nap. Supposedly, you're ensured not to sleep past 20 minutes because then the caffeine would kick in, but everyone processes caffeine differently. Yes. I'd rather just skip the nap and do some restorative yoga meditation instead. It's possible I may get sleepy even at the computer at 5, but again, this would be microsleep, as would watching TV at 9 for 1 or 2 minutes. I'm positive that it is 2 minutes or less. This is not my sleep perception. My husband would notice if it was longer and would have missed more of the plot. Here, yep, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like you're very, very sure that it is just a few minutes, and maybe you're right, but I still question that a little bit, because like, how can somebody be awake for 40 hours and not feel sleepy? That means one of two things: either you are underestimating how much you sleep, or you're like an extreme short sleeper, somebody who's like biologically can function on an extreme little amount of sleep, which would be highly unlikely given that before July you're sleeping more. So definitely something to explore more here. Okay, one thing that I didn't mention is that right before the insomnia happened, my yoga and meditation practice deepened, and I started to do other mindful movement like Tai Chi, Qigong. I've been practicing yoga and meditation for a number of years, but one session right before the insomnia hit was really deep, almost a minute of enlightenment and total equanimity. And I read and listened to a lot of Buddhist Dharma talks. This gave me a lot of inner peace, which unfortunately the insomnia is trying hard to dissipate. Not that I meditate for hours on end, but I read where Buddhist monks who are highly skilled meditators need a lot less sleep. And interesting, not having any particular comment on this section except for, yes, the insomnia tries to dissipate everything it can. Like it just, like, the more you give it, the more it takes. There's no way to appease it. And we'll get to that later. At this point, I can't even say how much sleep I need. I've never felt good getting more than 7 hours. 6 to 7 is great, 5 is doable, but today's 0 hours seems to be doable. I intend to do all the activities I intended for today, like cooking, yoga, watching TV, as well as reading, but 5 I may be dragging, and then maybe likely to get a second wind after dinner until the microsleep occurs at 9, and then my third wind for the remainder of the night, hopefully not past 12:30 a.m. I can't say for sure that the fatigue is 100% from lack of sleep. After all, I've never been 65 before. I don't know what that would feel like. Many of my peers sleep better, or at least more than I do, and have less energy all day, so I just don't know. You say that insomniacs tend to get sleepy 18 hours after waking. Is it possible that I'm on 21 to 40 hours sleep-wake cycle? I commented on that before. No, I don't think so. Looking forward to your thoughts. So this was 3 days ago, and I just want to go back here to my inbox because I got an email from Ellen 5 hours ago. Here it is. Daniel, I look forward to the video, but I'm really discouraged. Let's see. Yesterday was another sleepless night. I had one 3 days ago. But it occurred when I didn't take any meds or supplements other than melatonin and glycine. Meds may not be 100% solution, but in the last 6 days, the 4 days I slept were all associated with taking meds. This is an important point. You know, when you have taken medications for insomnia and you stop taking those, you are lifting off some kind of sedating impact on the neural system. So when that sedation is lifted, you will have some rebound insomnia. You know, you will sleep worse when you get off medications, which is why in my clinic, what I do when patients are having trouble sleeping, but they're already on medications, I typically say, let's not change that now, just take them, but take them regularly. The worst thing is when somebody doesn't want to take their medications and then wait until it's like 3, 4 a.m. and they're really desperate, then take them, and then they sleep till like 7 or 8 or something like that. That messes everything up. But if you take a medication like every night, the same day, you can do that and do CBTI. And then once you're doing, you know, you're building up your sleep confidence, then you can get off the medication. That may be a better strategy. Let's see here. I really thought yesterday was going to be my breakthrough night when it would come together for me. I had some micro sleep in the morning, even though I slept for hours. I slept 4 hours the previous 2 nights. Still so sleep deprived, averaging 3 hours sleep a night the past week. I watched your video where you noted that microsleep could really set back sleep onset So to make sure I stayed awake in the afternoon, I did cardio from 1 to 2, and then took a walk outside from 4 to 5. When I started to watch TV at 8, I immediately had a microsleep. To ensure that I would stay awake while watching until 10, I rubbed ice cubes on my face and kept my hands in cold water. I stayed awake. Did some very gentle yoga, 10:30 to 11, and meditation from 11 to 11:15. Read until 12:30. No microsleeps. Not really sleepy, but went to bed at my window of 12:30 since I seldom experience signs of sleepiness. Couldn't fall asleep, so I got up at 1 a.m. and read in the sunroom. Rise and repeat at 1:30, 2:30, 3:30. Never got sleepy. So I think what might have happened here is a combination of maybe, you are coming off medications. There's some component of rebound insomnia, but even more importantly, what happens a lot is that expectations sabotage things. So in this case, you had been working really, really hard not to get any microsleep, and you had been successful, and that may have led you to believe that, okay, I've done this so well, I worked so hard on this, now I'm probably going to sleep. Well, now there's expectation. Now you think that you may fall asleep. You're expecting to fall asleep. That is a huge sabotage, something that sabotages sleep a lot. So I think that very well might have happened. So let's keep reading. Right now it's 5:30 a.m. I actually feel fine. I'll probably go to the gym and exercise at 9, but I think I will need to cancel a 2-hour walk I had planned with a friend from 2 to 4 because I could really be dragging by then. It will be over 40 hours without sleeping, and don't think I should drive with a possible cognitive impairment after not sleeping and with the potential for micro sleeps. This, when I read this morning, I was like, okay, I really gotta get this done as soon as possible. This talk, that is, because if you cancel that 2-hour walk today, I understand that you have to have self-compassion again, totally. But when we start canceling things during the day because we want to catch up on sleep or we haven't slept good, that is a huge give to the insomnia that it will take. It will take that, and it will make you think about sleep. It will make you worry about sleep, and then you will cancel more events, and then you will dedicate more time to sleep, and then next time it will be like you won't go to the gym, and it will just take over your life. Don't let it do that. And of course, if you feel like you're at risk when you're driving, well, maybe have her pick you up or have your husband drive or do something. Like, do not cancel that walk if at all possible. Okay, let's read on. I was so sure I would sleep yesterday after a week of CBTI. I thought the micro sleeps at night, like around 8 or 9 p.m. and then at midnight while waiting to go to sleep were the problem. So I conquered that issue yesterday, possibly too well, since I never got sleepy after the ice treatment. Confident enough that I didn't want to take any meds. And I don't think it's really rebound insomnia for not taking the meds, since I didn't take them every day anyway and vary what I take. I had such a positive outlook that I've been taking the steps I need to get my sleep a little better. Don't expect perfection. I've even refrained from complaining to my husband about it at dinner, a first for me. There's a lot to comment on this in this paragraph. There is what I talked about earlier, like there is this expectation. You've done CBTI for a week, you combated the micro sleeps, now you should be getting better sleep. That expectation is sabotaging 100%. You said here, I don't think it's really rebound insomnia. I tend to agree with that. I thought that there could be a component of that, but I think the expectations is the big thing. And I had such a positive outlook. Don't change that. It's only been a week. And you've had insomnia now for what's it going to be like July, 8 months or something like that. It is going to take a couple of weeks, maybe 1 to 2 months or something like that before you are doing well. I think you will see signs of improvement before that, but it will take time. So another thing, I'm sure you're very, this is part of, you're very familiar with this concept as well, of course, of patience. Patience is very important. Let's go on. I was doing some research online about CBTI when I gave up trying to sleep after 4. I saw that I could decrease sleep onset latency by half, from 45 to 22 minutes. I wouldn't even be seeking help if I could fall asleep in 45 minutes. Do some people just not get enough of a sleep drive day in and day out? Could my circadian rhythm of sleep-wake really be on 48-hour basis, especially without meds? And if I get as little as 4 hours of sleep? Getting towards summarizing everything here, the questions you have, you're wondering if, your sleep drive is a certain way, if you could be somebody who has a 48 hours, kind of cycle, you're wondering a lot. The questions are the problem. The fact that you worry about your sleep and you think about your sleep is the problem. If you could get yourself to a point where you don't even ask yourself what your circadian rhythm is like, you don't even ask yourself what your sleep-wake cycle is, you don't ask yourself any other question, you're so distracted, so removed from even thinking about sleep, you will sleep better, guaranteed. But how can you get there? That is the really, really a difficult question to, or not a difficult question, but that is really, where you need to go. How do you get there? Well, the problem, of course, is, and I say this a lot, is you can't just decide not to worry about something or decide not to think about something, because then, if you don't replace it with something, it will still be there. So, I hear you're leading a very active life, which is good. I feel sometimes with like meditation and yoga, like if it takes you mentally to a space where you're calm and relaxed and don't think about sleep, that's fantastic. But they're not kind of like vigorous, activities. So you may find yourself like still thinking about sleep. If that is the case, try anything you can not to think about sleep. So be social, meet with friends, go out, anything you can that distracts you is good. I think having read, these emails, that the microsleep may be a bigger problem than you believe it is. Continue fighting it. I believe that's important. And we haven't really talked so much about sleep times, but when it comes to sleep times, a lot of people focus on like, how many hours should I have my sleep window set? I should be 5.5, should be 6.5. I think it's important to have a sleep window, but the most important thing is the wake up time. Like every morning, no matter how poorly you slept, try to be very consistent with that. That is important. And then not going to sleep when you're not sleepy, because I have read that sometimes, you're saying I went to bed even though I wasn't sleepy. That, try to avoid that. If you just keep yourself like busy, you're doing things and you don't feel sleepy, just keep going. And then you might wonder like, well, then I'm never going to sleep. No, you will. There will be a time where, if you just, like, you don't worry what the time is, you just keep busy, you will either feel sleepy or find yourself kind of have a microsleep. And if that microsleep happens like close to your sleep window, then just go to bed at that point. And another thing was, I've another strategy could be to like shift your entire sleep cycle. So meaning, instead of trying to stay up till 12:30 a.m., then go to set your sleep from like 8:30 p.m. until, I don't know what that's going to be, like maybe 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. to start with, and then have that as you wake up really early. And that's really hard to do, but the goal would of course be like that. Then you could have a rhythm. Say that you slept pretty consistently, like 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. Well, then you could gradually move it, like go 8:30, 9:30. That's just kind of the last thing here was just like a little, just a thought really. I don't think that's for most people a good strategy, but something to think about. And then finally, Ellen mentioned here that she signed up to work with Martin Reed, my good friend and colleague, and I think that's really good. I think for many people that I interact with here on the channel, I think they just need a couple of pointers and they can do really well. And in your case, Ellen, I think you may need a little more, more of a deeper interaction with somebody. And I think Martin is great. But that said, I'm here. Like, please email me any questions, but overall, do not lose hope. Things are really, really early. Like, I think here's what I've observed. If people are really, really able to do the CBTI, like, stick with their sleep window, they try to focus on being active during the day, don't take any naps. If people do it for, 2, 3, 4 weeks, if people reach like 4 weeks, committed 4 weeks, almost nobody. I can say completely honestly that I have not seen anybody that got committed 4 weeks and did not do better. I've not seen that. And so please keep this in mind. And I'm very hopeful you do really well soon, Ellen, and let us know. So I've started saying this to everyone that if whatever happens, let us know. But particularly if 2 months, 4 months, 6 months from today you're doing well, please don't forget to let me know that, because then I can share with other people and that can give them hope. So thanks again, Ellen, for letting me share this, and I'll talk to you soon. Until then, take it easy. Bye-bye.